I think as I grow older, I start to realize though that what matters to me the most is the lyrics and the concept. So I think I don't really see it so much as a changing, but more as like I'm slowly gaining new knowledge and I'm putting it all together into the art that I create today. When I was younger, I did want to quit classical music, and that took me quite a while to get over and reach like the age that I'm at now, where I'm like classical music is always a part of me. And that, I think, battling that was the most I've ever had with I Want to Quit Music.
Welcome to Before We Get There, the podcast where we explore people's journeys, how they got to where they are, what keeps them pushing forward, and where they eventually want to get to. I'm your host, Nicholas Braman, and today I'm joined by Heema Izzati. Heema is a young, rising musician who has 2 solo songs out on Spotify, has performed at Singapore's National Day Parade, and will be releasing her first EP later this year. We talked about her creative process, how she navigates writer's block, the shift from perfection to expression in her art, the unique challenges and rewards of building a public profile as a musician in today's digital landscape, and much more. Enjoy the show. Hi, Hema. Thanks for being with me here today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to see you. I just saw a reel of yours where you were talking about writer's block and how sometimes it's difficult to think of songs to write if you aren't doing a lot of activities other than your work and your school and that sort of thing. So I wanted to ask you, does that happen often for you? And how have you gotten through it when it happens?
Yeah, it does happen a lot for me. I think it wasn't as big of a deal in the past because like I didn't really have the pressure of needing to write songs or feeling like it didn't really feel like a career. I didn't really feel like I needed to do this. So it's okay if I was going to write this blog. I think right now, my idea of how to combat it is really just realizing that songwriting itself is a skill and it's something that I can do even though I don't necessarily have the inspiration. Like, it's something that, it's like a muscle that you can train. And I think having that realization was great for me in terms of telling myself, like, it's okay if not a lot is going on. Like, you can just sit down in your bed and you'll still be able to come up with a chord progression that you like. And you'll still be able to come up with a melody because I've gained all these skills from studying music throughout these years.
That's cool. And so I've always wondered for songwriters, because obviously I'm not a musician, I do a little bit of writing, but what comes first for you? Is it the music or the words?
For me, the music comes first, but I do always write like little bits of words of like things that inspire me. If I'm in a bus ride and something like comes up, or if my friend is speaking and I like an idea that she put out, I would write it down in my notes app and I'll come back to it and I'll put it into a song that maybe I was just working on a chord progression or just working on a melody. But in terms of actually sitting down and being like, I want to write a song, normally the chords come up first, and so the music first.
And at that point, do you already know the theme or the mood of the song that you're thinking about, or does you just let it flow and what happens, happens?
I think that because my songs, I like writing songs that are more conceptual and like I always want to have a message or an idea that I'm putting out with my music. So I'll sit down, I have the chords, I have like maybe the first verse chords and I'm thinking, okay, what is this about? What do these chords sound like to me? And then sometimes it will immediately like click, oh, I was just thinking about this the other day and I'm going to write about this. Like with Foreigner, it was like, oh, actually I have this notes app, like little file of a bunch of phrases and things that I had written about feeling disconnected from my mind. And that's how my latest single came out. It was like, I have chords now and I already have this idea that I had been thinking about. And now I'm going to put it together. But sometimes it's just I write a song and I'm like, okay, these chords feel like this. And then I start thinking about the concept while I'm sitting down in that moment with the guitar.
That's cool. So maybe let's dig into your story a bit, because I know that you started playing music and performing when you were super young. Has it always been something that you loved, or were there ever times that you were tired of it, or you thought you wanted to take a break or anything like that?
I think that with like art as a career, it can get very tiring, and it's quite often that you're like, dang, like that's really, you feel like you're putting a lot of your heart and soul, because like you are the brand in a way, like you are selling yourself, especially for the kind of music that I put out. But I think I'm lucky enough to say that I've never once been so tired or burnt out that I felt I want to quit music. I've never exactly had that feeling before. Maybe I'm still quite young, but to me it's like the satisfaction that I get after a show, it outweighs the fatigue by a lot. So I've never really felt that. But when I was younger, I did want to quit classical music, and that took me quite a while to get over and reach like the age that I'm at now, where I'm like, classical music is always a part of me, but I didn't really have the best relationship with it and didn't really have the best practicing habits. And that, I think, battling that was the most I've ever had with I want to quit music. Yeah.
So you started playing the cello, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so do you think it's just because of the style of music that was there, or was it because it was something your parents were having you do that you wanted to break out of, or where did that feeling come from?
So I think it was a couple of things. I was in a very competitive space because I was a competition cellist. So I was going to competitions a lot, and like it's not the best environment for someone like just growing up. And I was also in a program that was like a fast track classical program by NAFA. So NAFA had this program for younger students to do their diploma in music, but like ABRSM diploma in music. And it was called NAFA School of Young Talents. And it was like a very competitive program to get into, and when you're in it, to succeed. And it was very stressful going to competitions quite often, and also balancing my life in primary school at the time. And I was in a very fancy primary school as well, where it's one of the more elite schools in Singapore. And so it was a lot of pressure that it's something that I wouldn't want to impart on my kids. Like I wouldn't want to put them through that. But I see a lot of benefits with classical music. So I think with classical music, it's really like threading a thin line of teaching young kids discipline, but also finding a way for them to maintain like passion and creativity with music. Because to me, music is art, but there tends to be a culture with classical music where the goal is perfection rather than expressing yourself.
That's very interesting. And so then the making that transformation from competing and being very strict, what are the benefits you still see in your music today, the benefits that came from that?
100%. I think that classical music is a great way for young performers like me to, not just any kid, I think it's a great educational tool with like teaching children discipline, being able to sit down and practice. I think I was lucky because I did still love the cello and I loved music and I loved creating music, but it does really teach you, I guess, determination. Like sometimes your hand doesn't want to move in that way, but you'll sit down and you'll get it. You'll just keep going until you get it. So I definitely carry those like good practicing habits into the music that I create today. And like I self-taught myself guitar, and I recently started teaching myself the bass. And so it was like I could carry these things over when I started learning these new instruments. or even singing, because until before I joined Cell Now, I hadn't taken any vocal classes. So I had all these skills that I could take with me when I started teaching myself new skills. But the thing is that there are some things that are hard to carry on, like into contemporary music, that can actually work the opposite way. Like this idea of practicing until you get it, like 4 hours in a practice room, sometimes doesn't work for a songwriter like myself today, because if I was practicing my originals and how I'm going to perform it to an audience so much, you are actually just putting a lot of your emotion into it. And it's like your music is your head, and just having to practice that on loop can make you very tired, and it can just not help in terms of making you better. It might just make you more tired and more jaded. And so there are some things that like I am only now trying to figure out what's good and what's bad. And also there are some practicing injuries that I kept from my cello background. So I have a pain in like my palms that I haven't been able to get disappear for quite a while. And I think it might be a permanent injury now, just because I was practicing a bit too long for the age that I was at when I was still growing. But I was practicing about 4 hours a day at some point.
Wow, that's a lot. I hope you can figure out how to fix the injury. I thought it was interesting that you mentioned it sounds like almost being over-rehearsed for the style of music that you do now. And I just want to share, I did play the piano when I was a kid. I have no sense of rhythm and no sense of tone. So piano is the only instrument that I could do, because when you hit the key, the note is there. You don't have to actually hear when you hit the right note. So when you did make that switch over from playing classical music to writing your own songs, how different did it feel to be in front of people and performing something that you wrote yourself rather than something that somebody had already written?
Yeah, it feels completely different. I think that my main difference is that I know that I'm putting out a message or this idea that I feel so strongly about. I'm really allowing people to really see my inner monologue. Like I'm really speaking about experiences that I've gone through. And I hope that one day I will start writing about things that not necessarily I've gone through, but like I still feel strongly about. But right now, it's the music that I'm writing and the music that I've been putting out. It's like when people compliment me, it feels more personal and in the best way possible. Like I know that being like an artist and just performing on a stage is an incredible privilege that not a lot of people have. And I hope that every time I sing a song that's about something like that someone in the audience relates to, or like my latest single is about mental health. So it's like playing like that small part in destigmatizing something that might be hard to talk about is a lot more to me than playing music that already has been written. Yeah.
So I've talked to several people in different creative arts about this, but I'm always curious. When you're writing a song, how do you know when it's ready, like when you're done? Or when there's still room for improvement?
This one is so hard for me to do. I'm so lucky that I've been working with a producer on the music that I've been doing for my upcoming EP. Because if I didn't have someone else in the same room with me to be like, you're fine, this is okay. Like I would want to keep adding things or like taking away things, or I would want to fix how my voice sounds like in this small moment. I think it is really hard for me to really just be like, this is done. I'm happy with how this is. Before I was doing music, I was a visual artist in like my last school, and I wanted to become a painter. And so a lot of what I was doing was more traditional like style of art, and I would still feel like there's something I can change, something I can add, even if I was basing it off a photo that already like an object, I would still feel like there's something that can be changed or something that could be made better. So I think it's really hard to distinguish. That's why I feel like it's really important to collaborate and trust other people, because or take a step back and then listen to it in a month and be like, okay, actually this sounds great. Like I'm totally happy with this. I can't even tell. With where I'm at now, what I've been telling myself is a lot of the music that I'm putting out now, even in terms of songwriting, there are things that I would want to change, but it was because I wrote it when I was about 15 or 16, and I told myself that I don't want to change it because I want to stay as true to myself as possible. At the end of the day, like there was a 15-year-old girl that wrote this that felt in that moment, these were the lyrics that aligned with her the best. And so staying as true as possible to what that is helped me come to terms with the fact that, yeah, honestly, I wouldn't write these lyrics anymore, but I'm still gonna release it soon. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, I did want to ask you about, because since you are quite young, and how do you feel your music has been changing as you've aged? Because it feels like it could be maybe you're gaining some technical skills, and you said you haven't been singing for that long and are picking up other instruments like bass, but at the same time you're maturing as a person and you're getting new life experiences. How does that all fit in, and what are the differences it makes in the music you create?
So many differences. I think it started out with like, in the beginning, even though I never really got any professional vocal training, I've been singing for a very long time. And so it was first viewing myself, like changing the fact that I viewed myself as a musician or a singer to viewing myself as an artist. Kind of the vocal choices that I make doesn't necessarily have to be the most technically accurate, but it should be what kind of fits that song or the message that I'm putting out, because art at the end of the day. And I think that is something that has been changing a lot it's like having to balance it out, because I am in music school, I am going for all these classes, I'm learning all these new skills, but still keeping that soul and that grit that I had when I was originally writing the song. Another thing is that I have such a vast musical background. Like I started out as a pianist and then a cellist. And when I was a cellist, I was in orchestra and I was in string ensemble. But when I was in secondary school, I was in like a band, like pop band. And I was also in an a cappella group in secondary school. And combining all these things, even though I wouldn't say like I write music meant for a cappella, right? It's so like that influence would always play a part in how I make my harmonies, for example, or how I arrange my music, because there's always going to be that orchestral background and there's always going to be that like rock band that I used to be a part of. And I think putting that all together and trying to navigate through that now that I'm doing my solo stuff, you can tell how in certain phases of my life, like string matters more. Like when I wrote Locked Out, I got my sister to play the violin at the end of it. So that was my debut single. And when I did my latest single, I played the cello at the end of it. And so it's like sometimes there are still these like sounds that I try to integrate together and pay homage to that version of me that very much loved that kind of music. I think as I grow older, I start to realize, though, that what matters to me the most is the lyrics and the concept. And I just pick through and I see all these things that I already have the skills in. And obviously I could learn so much more about classical music and stuff, but it's like these things that I've already dabbled in and I put it together to the music that I create now. So I think I don't really see it so much as a changing, but more as like I'm slowly gaining new knowledge and I'm putting it all together into the art that I create today.
That's awesome. So do you think you'd ever consider performing in a band again in the future, or do you prefer to be a solo artist?
I think I'll probably stay a solo artist, but I have been doing live sets with bands lately. Like I'll just pull in some sessionists and arrange my music because I feel like I do experimenting, and I hope that at some point I can move slightly more into like more rockish sound, like a more rockish sound. And I've spoken about this before, but a lot of my musical influence also came from my family, and I really love rock music. And even though the music that I write now is a lot more folksy singer-songwriter vibe, when I have a band, I feel like I always integrate it into a sound that is more loud when it's live. And so I love performing with a band. But I think the reason why I want to stay a solo artist is because like I was in a band when I decided, like when I started writing my own music, I was still in my old band. And I started realizing that my way of writing music and my idea of my sound no longer aligned with the band sound. And when you're in a band, or like for me, I felt like if I was writing music and playing with the band, I would have to take into consideration the sound of the group in its entirety. But when I'm writing my own music, I don't really want to do that. Like I want to be able to like stay true to the style that I can hear it in my head. And so that's why I think I would probably stay a solo artist.
That's very respectful. And but it'll be interesting to see if there's ever a time that comes along where a group of people that really synergize with the sound that you want to make comes back together again. So I've heard you say before that, like we said, you've been performing so long since you were super young, and you've been on some big stages like National Day Parade and that sort of thing. So you don't ever really get nervous. But I did want to ask if you ever have a bad set or a performance that afterwards you go, I could have done better, I should have done better.
Oh, always. I wouldn't say that I don't get nervous. I think I always get nervous before I get on stage, like very nervous. Like sometimes on a big show day, I wouldn't be able to sleep the day before, like just butterflies. But I never have stage fright. So I've never had a moment where I'm like, I can't get on that stage. Because I've told myself the more I perform that, like, really, what's the worst that can happen? And for me, I know that no matter what, I'll still be able to sing. Like, I might mess up my chords, but I still know how to talk to the audience. And I'm not going to suddenly forget how to sing. So that's okay. So I tell myself, like, the worst that can happen is you forget a line, you forget a chord, but it's not the end of the world. I do think that it's impossible to kick the nerves. I don't think it's possible to never not get nervous. And it's because of all the sets that I've stepped off the stage being like, shucks, I should have done that better. That makes you feel that nervousness before you get on the stage, in my opinion. And yeah, I still always feel I'm very tough on myself. And I carry another trait that I carried forward from my classical background. But I always feel like there's something that I should have done better. And I'm someone that will really like lock myself in my room and practice something till I get it right. And so it sucks sometimes. But I think since I've started doing my original music, it's also telling myself that maybe you're not happy with it. But at the end of the day, when you're a performer, like an artist like me, like you are serving the audience in a way and you're entertaining. And if the audience felt something at all and they were entertained, you did your job. And I shouldn't be so tough on myself because like I did something good at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's cool. So do you think those nerves are actually a good thing? Like they're telling your mind and your body to get ready, it's showtime? Or would you rather, if you could make them go away forever, would you rather never have nerves again?
This is I find this question to be so confusing because there was one show, I think there was only one show in my whole life that I was not nervous. I didn't have any nerves. I was just like, I'm just going to go up on there. And I don't remember which show, but I remember like moments before I was like, it's really weird that I'm not feeling anxious. And I started thinking like, oh my God, you're going to do badly. You've never felt not nervous. If you're not nervous, then you're going to do badly. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. But it was a good set. So I don't know what was going on there. But every other set that's been a good set, I've also been nervous. So I wouldn't say I want the nerves to go away. I think nerves are a good thing in the sense that my friend always says this, but big things feel big. And your body is telling you like this is a big thing. And that's okay to feel stressed out about this. But I also feel like I don't want to lose sleep over a set. And that's the point that like my nerves reach sometimes. Like before the TEDx performance at like the speech, I was so nervous. Couldn't sleep the night before. The entire, like when all the other speakers were doing their speeches, I was just shaking at the back. And I think those nerves were great. It went well, but it's like you don't really want that to happen. You want to be able to take a deep breath and be like, everything's going to be okay. But sometimes your nerves kind of force you not to be able to do that. So that sucks.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more so for everybody listening, Hema performed last year at the TEDx Singapore main stage event in December. And I think that was an interesting one for you because you did quite a lot of talking along with your music. How was that?
It was very interesting. The nerves was probably the most I've ever had for a show because of the speaking, I would say. I think it was like this combination of you need to know all your chords and like everything, but also know what to say in between. So that was my first time having to do that. But honestly, like one of the best challenges that I've ever had to like experience. It was really cool. I got to really speak about what matters to me. Like I spoke about like the violin class that I run every other Sunday for underprivileged youth. And I got to sing 2 songs, like my original that matters a lot to me and a song that really inspired my like journey into singer-songwriting. I think I said this before, like once on an interview, but it's like I actually talk a lot. I speak a lot. Like I'm the kind of person that forgets to breathe and I can just go on and just talk. So the talking or finding the words to say wasn't really the problem. Like I knew what I wanted to talk about, but it was more having to slow down and find a way to make sure that what I was saying really got across to the audience. So that was really stressful. And I knew in my head, like this is a big opportunity for me. So it was awesome. Yeah. I'm so happy it turned out well.
Yeah, it was great. You're definitely one of the big hits of the show and everybody had great feedback. So I would say it went very well. Along those lines, I wanted to ask you do you feel like you have a stage persona or are you somebody a little bit different when you're performing? Or it's just you and you're the same in day-to-day life as when you're performing?
I think it's very similar. I think I'm quite similar on stage than I am not on stage. Like, I really care about authenticity. And it's something I really pride myself in is the fact that I don't want to create unhealthy expectations because, like, social media has created a very competitive space where a lot of young people look at influencers and content creators and it can really affect a young person's self-esteem, me included when I was like younger or even now, like seeing people that are like, oh, why isn't my life like theirs? But the truth is that I really don't want to create that environment where people feel like they can't speak to me or I'm not just a normal person that stumbles on my words when I'm on stage. And so I try to keep it as authentic as possible, especially because the music that I write is so true to my heart and it's very much my experiences. And I want to show the audience that like this is what I went through. If you went through this, then here's a song that you might like. So I try to keep it as real as possible. I think the only difference is like I'm still like a teenager who is very anxious about certain things. And I think I carry myself with a bit more confidence on stage, or like when I feel like when I'm at an event that I feel like I should be carrying myself with that kind of confidence. Something that I feel very strongly about is how I feel like everyone should be comfortable with like self-discovery and changes and trying new things and like trying new hobbies. And I only picked up the bass last August, around there, like last September maybe. And I decided to play it for a show early this year. And it was very much a new instrument, something that I had just started picking up. And I decided like, I'm just going to put myself out there, like, why not? And I was speaking quite publicly about the fact that I strongly encourage everyone to just try. It doesn't matter whether you're bad, just do it. And honestly, it was super stressful for me to take the bass and go up on stage and sing while playing it. Like, it was very anxiety inducing. But the reason why I felt like I felt the responsibility to say to like other people, like, you should do it, because I believe that I have to play a role in creating the environment that I want to live in, or like the space that I want to be in. Like, I want to play a part in creating a more accepting, more kind space where people are comfortable in like trying out new things and sharing that they're trying new things without only feeling that they can be public about something once they're good at it. So I feel like that's something that I'm more like strong about on stage, but really like off stage, I was like, oh my God, everyone's gonna think I'm bad. I was so stressed. But yeah, so I think that's something that is slightly different. Like, I'm a bit more confident on that kind of stuff.
No, I think that's a very healthy attitude to have, because if we aren't continuing to push ourselves and to try new things and to grow and learn, then we're going to lose the spark and get stale pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So how do you balance all of your different performing in a lot of different places, and then school and recording singles, and there's so much going on? How do you balance it all?
Yeah, honestly, it is really hard, but I know for a fact that I'm super lucky and I'm so grateful to be able to do this. But I think the only reason why it's hard is because I'm not the best at time management, at least not yet. And I'm someone that really hyperfixates on stuff. And to me, it's like I would much rather get one thing perfect than have to balance like 8 things and do it averagely. And that was something that like I really struggled with when like my midterms crashed, was the same time as all of my like having to send in to the distributors all my media assets and like the song for Foreigner, and starting to do like content creation and like posting it quite regularly fell with my finals. And it's quite daunting, but it's also realizing like my priorities. Like, I'm already super lucky that music is what I'm studying in school. So if I'm out late watching a show or a concert, like, it is in a way like studying. Like, it truly is, because I really feel like watching performers is so important for all aspiring musicians and artists to do, and like just take inspiration from everything around you, and watching artists is like the best way to do that. And I realized that there was a lot more, like, sometimes the overlap was a good thing, and I had to figure out how to like make the best use of it. Like how I would have a songwriting class and I would actually be able to write songs. I had a production class, and that class that I had for my production class ended up being my demo for one of my singles for me to send over to a producer. So there are a lot of pros even like with this overlap, because I'm lucky enough to already be studying music. And I think for a lot of people, specializing young can be very daunting. But for me, I think it was the best decision I could have made. I think that once I figured out like how to make the best use of my exams and my shows all aligning at the same time. It all falls into place. And I also think that with music school, I have this thing where it's like we have to do a recorded vocal exam. And this semester, my recorded vocal exam fell on the same week as a show that I had that weekend. And so 2 of the songs that I did for the recorded vocal exam was the songs that I was performing live. So there are ways to make it so that if I'm practicing for this one thing, I'm also practicing for another thing. So it's good in a way.
Yeah, that's a great way to manage things, to be able to get like multi-use out of what you're doing and how it all connects back. Have there ever been any performance opportunities or other kinds of opportunities that you've had to give up because of school or other commitments?
Yeah, I have had to give up quite a couple of opportunities because of school, but it was a lot more when I was in secondary school than now. I think now that I'm in an art school, I just contact them and say, I have this going on. And normally, like, it's all okay. The only worry is when it falls on like an exam period. I think it's also for me being realistic. I do get very stressed out from school submissions and exams, and I care a lot about my grades. Like, I'm very quiet in that way. I feel like I need to, like, this is something that I'm really learning now, but just learning to say no to learning to say no to things, not only because you have something clashing, but just because you feel like, okay, this is the maximum I can do. So knowing my own limits as well is really important.
That's also interesting. And it makes me think, like, when you mentioned you care a lot about getting good grades as an artist, and maybe down the road when you're not in school anymore, how do you think, and even currently when, as far as social media goes or that sort of thing, how do you think that you're going to measure your success or how well you're doing? Do you think you'll revert back to something like, oh, I'm getting new followers, or I have X amount of listens on Spotify? Or are you going to be able to be comfortable and happy with what you're doing based on your own feeling from the productivity that you have or from the work that you're doing?
I think this is something that I'm still thinking about and still trying to figure out. I have spoken to a lot of like artists about this, and I feel very blessed that all the artists have been so encouraging and really helping me navigate through the scene. But something that I realized that I think that like it doesn't matter as much to me. It's definitely the numbers on the screen. And obviously I want as many people as possible to listen to what I'm doing and hear what I'm putting out. But I think what I mean by that is that if I was putting out the same 2 minute 30 seconds, like how many BPM, verse, pre-chorus, chorus about a breakup, but it's been up on an upbeat beat, like I wouldn't be happy even if that was getting 1 million streams. I think another good example, like how I know that the numbers wouldn't necessarily make me happy, is the first ever song that I released, Locked Out. I'm not the biggest fan of that song. And so sometimes I actively am like, oh, I don't want to sing it. I want to take it out of the set list. I do, however, want to find a way to consistently do this work to create a brand and create this, like, my music, like, me as an artist, I am a brand. I much prefer when one person DMs me and is telling me that their music really matters to me. At the last show that I performed at, someone passed me a letter, and she actually wrote in the letter how, as like a 13-year-old girl, she really resonated with my latest single and how it really helped her come to terms with the loneliness that she was feeling as a teenager in school. And I think that matters to me 10 times more than if 100,000 people listen to my music, but I didn't actually know whether it positively impacted them.
Yeah, that must be very touching and mean a lot to get that kind of message from people, how people are reacting to your music.
Sure.
It's interesting though, because you mentioned like really resonating with you and with what, your life story. And I think that when you mentioned you don't like your first song that much, did you like it when you first wrote it and put it out? Or how long was it before you thought, I don't really like it as much as I used to?
I think that I'm not sure how other artists deal with this, but I think I put out the song a bit too late. I think that if I put it out slightly earlier in a place, like when I put it out, I was already like, dang, like I wrote this song so long ago, I don't really like it anymore. but like once in a while I come back to it and I'm like, okay, I can't even imagine a place. I don't even know the place in my life that I was at when I wrote it. I can't even remember. I think I was like 15 or 16, but it's like, it was a song that really came super quickly in that day. And then I was like, actually, this would be a great first single. And then it just took a while for it to get going. That by the time I released it, I was like, I can understand why I wrote this song, but it isn't exactly the kind of message that I would want to send to my audience and put out into the world, because I really care about the messages and things that I'm letting other people hear. I think that's something that we should care a lot about as artists, even though I don't exactly have a huge listening base right now, like a huge fan base. I think it matters because it is, at the end of the day, still a privilege to release things and perform on a stage. And so I try to keep it that everything that I put out, everything that I play, it actually is something that matters. So I wouldn't say that this song really aligned with that. But yeah, like I also am trying to acknowledge that it came from a kid and that's okay. Like I should be able to take every phase of my life as it is. And it just may not have been super deep, but that's okay.
I like it. And I like your latest very much as well. So I think there'll be obviously different tastes for different people about as your career progresses. And I think we've all seen it or probably even felt it before. Like there's some musicians or bands that they have certain time periods of their music where they put out a few great albums and they're still performing and writing new songs today, but it's just not, for whatever reason, it doesn't resonate with you as much as some of their older works. So I'm sure that will continue to evolve as your career goes on.
Yeah.
So one question that I like to ask all my guests, the last question for today, is if I talk to you in 5 years from now, what would you like to be able to tell me has happened since now that would make you feel successful?
Okay, hopefully a full-length album or two. 5 years, quite a bit of time. But I'm 18 now, and I realize that there's so many paths that my life can go down, like right now at the crossroads that I'm at. And something that I really doing is I like being in school as much as it's hard to balance it with my career. And so I might be pursuing my master's at the point that in 5 years' time. So that would make me super happy if I was doing composition or some form of music and studying it. I really don't want to, I don't put myself in a box. Like I was thinking just recently that if I take a gap year after I finish my diploma, which is like I'll graduate by next year, like August, I'll already be done and I'll be joining my uni by then. And if I take a moment, I take a gap year and I officially work on my first full-length album, my life might go down in a completely different road, and I might be able to say that in 5 years' time, I might be able to say I went on my first successful tour. But like that would make me happy. Continuing to pursue my higher education would make me happy. Like basically just continue doing music. That would make me happy.
That's awesome. A lot of cool possibilities that you have in front of you. So that's great to hear. Where can people find you if they want to hear your music or if they want to follow you on social media?
Okay, got it. Instagram and Spotify at Heema Izzati. That's HeemaIzzati. And YouTube also at the same thing. If you guys... Oh, please listen to my music. I have 2 songs out.
Definitely.
I have 2 songs out on Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming platforms. And there will be more coming out soon. I'll be releasing my debut EP this coming year, and there'll be singles leading up to it that you guys will be able to hear very soon. Yeah.
Super exciting. We'll put all of the links in the show notes. Thanks again, Hema, for talking with me today. It was great to learn more about you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Very fun.
All right. Awesome. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to Before We Get There with your host, Nicholas Braman. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Before We Get There Podcast. New episodes are released every other Thursday morning. See you next time.